Welcome to the Church in the Wild podcast. You'll be hearing the words from worship from Sunday, December 14th, 2025, where we continue our conversation on the dream season and share about our dream visions and visitations. If you want to find out more about Church in the Wild, just go to churchinthewild.org. Thanks for listening.
So, hi, I'm Barb. When animals hibernate, I think of them entering sort of a dream state, and I never really looked into that before, but it seems to me like it would be a dream state. But it turns out that they probably aren't dreaming at all during true hibernation. Their metabolisms are slowed down so much, and they need to conserve so much energy that even the energy that's used for the brain to dream in that deep REM sleep would be too costly for them and from an energy standpoint. In fact, the only animal known to dream during true hibernation is the fat-tailed dwarf lemur. It has brief warm-up periods where its brain warms up every so often during hibernation, and it's actually been observed to have active REM sleep patterns at that time. And they're actually studying the lemur's hibernation to maybe someday help figure out how to put humans into a state of suspended animation for long distance space travel. But since we don't live on Madagascar, we do not have any lemurs at Sky Lake. So I looked into what the animals that we do have here are doing over the winter, even now with the lake frozen over with ice. So we'll start with the fish. The fish in the lake don't truly hibernate, but they do enter a state of torpor where their temperature drops. Well, they're cold-blooded, so of course their temperature drops, but it slows their metabolism so that they don't require much to eat. Their heart rate, their breathing rate, their digestion rate, all of that slow way down. But it's not quite as extreme as true hibernation. They barely move and they congregate in schools at the bottom of the lake where the water is actually warmer than it is at the surface now. And if that sounds like the opposite of what you would expect, you're right, because normally in the spring through the fall, the cooler water's at the bottom because it's heavier than the warmer water. But when the water temperature dips below 39 degrees, like it does in the winter, it actually gets a little lighter on its way to freezing. So between 39 and 32, it actually gets lighter again. So the almost freezing water stays at the top of the lake, trapping the slightly warmer water below. And even if it's just a difference of a couple of degrees, it can make a difference for the fish's survival. And then once the surface freezes, like it has now, it insulates the water below even more. The snakes and the other cold-blooded animals on land, they will find a place to hole up in for the winter. I'm sure they already have. They can use burrows, caves, rock crevices. The best spots are below the frost line, and they tend to cluster together to maintain as much warmth as possible. Being cold-blooded, they can't control their body temperatures like mammals can, so they get very cold in winter. And when cold-blooded animals overwinter, they don't call it hibernation, they call it brumation. The main difference is that they still remain slightly aware, and they can become active from time to time as the weather might warm up for one day or something like that. So their metabolic activities are barely functioning, and they can go the whole winter without eating anything. But sometimes when it's warm, they'll come out to bask in the sun or to find food. And out there on the lake, you may even see water snakes swimming around under the ice on warmer days. Some of the frogs, like the green frogs, the leopard frogs, and the bullfrogs, along with some turtles, like the snapping turtles and the painted turtles, they'll bury themselves in the mud or the leaf litter at the bottom of the lake for their brumation. And leaf litter is especially sought after because it produces heat as it decays. And even though turtles normally need to breathe oxygen from the air, you see them poking their heads out to breathe, they're able to absorb oxygen from the water during the hibernating period. And this happens by breathing with their butts, literally. They call it butt breathing. Yes, they call it butt breathing. And you don't need to really get a good visual of this, but they have lots of blood vessels close to the surface in that area. And because of that, they're able to absorb what little oxygen they need from the water that passes over their anus. I did not know this before but butt breathing is a thing. So, and then the tree frogs, the peepers, the wood frogs, they hibernate on land and they're able to freeze solid, but still survive because of a chemical protectant they produce that keeps ice crystals from damaging their cells. They can actually stop breathing completely and their hearts can stop during this period, not just slow down. And if you like came across one walking around the woods out there, it would seem dead. It'll be stiff, it seem dead for all purposes. But when the weather warms up in the spring, they literally thaw out and go about their business as usual. Some caterpillars like the woolly bears do the same thing. Toads don't have to do that because they're usually able to dig deep enough down that they can get below the frost line and they don't have that anti-freeze protection. Some butterflies that don't migrate, like the mourning cloak, they're able to produce the anti-freeze as well. They don't have blood, but they have a fluid. It's kind of like our lymph fluid a little bit. And they protect their bodies from freezing. They stay in tree crevices to protect themselves from the weather. And sometimes they can come out and fly around on nice days. Other insects and spiders do that as well. They can produce that anti-freeze. Lastly, the sky lake mammals, like the chipmunks and the skunks, hunker down and enter that torpor state where they slow down, but they can still be active on nice days. The woodchucks do a true hibernation in their burrows until spring. But the rabbits and the squirrels and the deer and the foxes and the beavers, they stay active all winter. So do the birds who fluff up their feathers and huddle together somehow to stay warm. So it seems that only these animals that don't truly hibernate, but just stay active and then sleep like we do, will be the only ones streaming this winter at Sky Lake.
Those turtles. Hi, I'm Dolly. Our poem today is Dreams by another wonderful Mary Oliver. All night, the dark buds of dreams open richly. In the center of every petal is a letter. And you imagine, if you could only remember, and string them all together, they would spell the answer. It is a long night and not an easy one. You have so many branches and there are diversions, birds that come and go, the black fox that lies down to sleep beneath you, the moon staring with her bone white eye. Finally, you have spent all the energy you can, and you drag from the ground the muddy skirt of your roots and leap awake with 2 or 3 syllables like water in your mouth and a sense of loss, a memory, not yet a word, certainly not yet the answer, only how it feels when deep in the tree, all the locks click open and the fire surges through the wood and the blossoms blossom.
Hi, I'm Sue. Our wisdom today comes from the Christian scriptures, Matthew 1, 18 to 24, from the First Nations translation. Here's the story of how the chosen one was born. His mother, Bitter Tears, Mary, had been promised in marriage to he gives sons, Joseph. But before they came together in marriage, while still a virgin, she found out that she was carrying a baby in her womb from the Holy Spirit. He gives sons. Joseph was a man of honor. He did not want to bring her trouble and open shame, so he thought about secretly releasing her from the marriage promise. As he wondered about these things, a messenger from the Great Spirit appeared to him in a dream and said, "He gives sons, Joseph, descendant of much loved one David. Do not be afraid to take bitter tears, Mary, to be your wife, because the Holy Spirit has given her this child. She will give birth to a son. You will name him Creator Sets Free, Jesus, because he will set his people free from their bad hearts and broken ways." This gave full meaning to the words of Creator spoken long ago by the prophet. A young virgin will be with child and give birth to a son. They will call his name Emmanuel, which in our tribal language means Creator is with us. When he gives sons, Joseph woke up. He followed the guidance given him in the dream and took bitter tears, Mary, to be his wife. Please join me in the response to wisdom in the program. Wisdom comes to us in our dreams. May we follow the guidance we receive as we sleep.
Yes. Yeah, the First Nations. So cool. It's so far, it's only the New Testament, but they're working on no, it's the whole New Testament. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're doing it in pieces. It's such a cool translation. Well, we are right in the middle of dream season here. I'm curious, is anyone finding they're dreaming more this month? We're supposed to be sleeping more, but it's been tough, I'll tell you. I feel like I am dreaming a little bit more because I'm trying to sleep more, but I think just thinking about it too helps me kind of hang on to them when I wake up. Oh. Yeah. We can remember we dream, but we don't necessarily remember what. Yeah. Well, as we're descending towards the solstice, one more week, we are entering this season of darkness and dreams, and we can accept or receive this season as a gift. It is a gift for us to be able to rest from all the labors, from the outward doings of summer and spring and fall. And it's time for us to go inward, to nurture our creativity, to work on our personal stuff, right? To do some journaling, tend to our inner world. And it's this time of year, as we heard from Barb, that we are all of creation is moving inward here. We're doing this together, this huddle. We're all moving towards the warmth. I think of all those animals that burrow down. They're all just hunkering in. And isn't that what we do too? That's why we decorate, right? Because we know this is our little huddle for the next 3 months. So let's make it pretty. We're all just going into that warmth that we need. So last week we started dream season with a look at the Aboriginal concept of dream time, this cosmic time of the Creator when the world came into being. And it paired so perfectly with John 1. This sense of in the beginning, there was this nothingness, but then all the things came to be. And this time that wasn't measured the same as we measure time now. And this sense that we can tap back into that You know, the Greeks have those two words for time, kairos and chronos. Chronos is like keeping track of time, and the kairos time, the time of creation, God's time, is this concept, the dream time. And we talked about how the energy of all of our rituals this time of year that are all centered around the solstice, no matter what holiday we're calling it this time of year, it was put here because of the solstice, the shortest day, which has been the longest celebrated holiday in human history. We've been marking this day because it was a very important day to mark, to say, okay, everybody, we're about to try to survive winter together. Let's get ourselves prepared for that. So everyone, humans, animals, we're all moving through our winter rituals. And we can feel a sense of this dream time as we practice those rituals again, year after year after year, knowing that thousands of generations have practiced them before us and thousands more will continue it. And we can feel a sense of that eternalness when we move through our traditions and rituals. And so now we are moving into this week's topic, which is visions and visitations. Now, the Christmas story is full of dreams. The Bible is full of visions and visitations happening in people's dreams. I was telling Matt, because we're talking about Joseph's dream, and he said, whoa, well, let's do this song from Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. I was like, other Joseph, New Testament Joseph's dream. They both had dreams. So there's dreams throughout, important dreams, you know, ways that God is trying to get into our brains and give us instructions all throughout the Bible. Life-saving guidance came through dreams for people for millennia. Deep spiritual wisdom has been coming to human beings through our dreams. So you are not crazy if you have received some kind of wisdom or guidance in your dreams. You are simply paying attention, and thank God we have people that listen to their dreams, right? In Joseph's case, in this story, he probably saved Mary's life, or at least her dignity, right? And then the other dream of the Christmas story is the Magi's dream. They find baby Jesus. He was really like 2 or 3. The manger, we put them all together because it's easier, but you know, they found him a couple of years later, and Herod was like, I want to know where this kid is so I can kill him. And they were warned in a dream, don't go back to him, go home another way. And they listened. So they saved Jesus's life as a toddler. It's important that we pay attention to our dreams. Whether you understand it as a divine message or a visit from an angel, or maybe a loved one who's passed, or we can go with Carl Jung's interpretation of dreams, right? This very famous psychologist says dreams are invariably seeking to express something the ego doesn't know and doesn't understand. I mean, we could also think about it as in terms of our inner wisdom, the little spark of the divine within us is helping us process and figure things out in our dreams, you know? So maybe it's that too. I don't know. So there's a student of Jung, Clarissa Pincola Estes, a Mexican-American writer and Jungian psychoanalyst. She says, the soul is never silent. It whispers through our dreams, intuition, and love. Dreams, she says, bypass the ego and persona and travel straight to the spirit and soul who listen for the ancient and universal instructions embedded there. So whether we're understanding messages in our dreams as our own inner wisdom, bypassing our egos, it's sort of like in your dreams, the craziest things can happen. Like they don't have to make sense, but the message is able to get through to us in a way that we couldn't sit down and think through, while we're awake, because we just need that imaginative space to be able to process some of this stuff. Or maybe they're direct messages from the divine, like we hear about in scripture. Whatever is coming to us in our dreams, it's important that we listen, I say. So we're going to take a moment now to share about dreams, visions, and visitations that maybe we've received. I'm going to go first to give you time to think, because I've been thinking about it. So you'll have a minute, but I want to remind us, let's please, be respectful when someone's talking. Let's listen, and to keep it short, just let's make sure we're just sharing the pertinent. We can really get caught up in dreams and all the little weird details, but let's stick to the main point and make sure we're going to pass the mic so Zoom crew can hear us. And Zoom crew, please, I want to hear from you too. If you've got something you want to share, you can raise your hand on Zoom or actually wave at me so I know you want to go, and we'll make sure we get to you. Okay. So first, I thought we'll split this up. We're talking visions and visitations, and both we see examples of in scripture, and I've got examples of both for us. So I had this dream in my 20s. I was in New York City, and so first of all, in your dream, you always dream yourself kind of at your peak age, whatever you think that was. But I was in my 20s, and I was older, which is not normal in a dream unless there's a reason for you to be older. Usually, if you're just dreaming a sort of normal dream, you're always like 30 or whatever, felt right. But I was older, and I borrowed a younger man's running legs. You know how the paraplegic running legs? It was like that, but you could strap them. It was just for your feet, and it made it so your joints didn't take the impact of running. So there's like bionic running legs I borrowed from a younger man in New York City, and I was going for a jog. I was like, whoa, I wish I had these when I was younger. And I'm jogging through New York City. It's more crowded than I've ever seen New York City. And water was lapping up to the sidewalk. And I was like, I went into a building, and there were just all these people hanging around, but it was peaceful. Everybody was friendly. The sun was shining. And I thought, I better get back. I don't want whoever to think I am gone or stole his running legs or something. So I went back, and I woke up, and I thought that was a vision of the future, right? Like sea level rise in New York City, tons more people, bionic legs. And I thought maybe that was my kid that I was like visiting in New York City. And now I have 2 sons. So maybe, I don't know. But I woke up, and I was like, I just saw the future. That was crazy. But this gives me hope too, when I think about the state of the world and how scary things feel sometimes. I always think about that dream, and I'm like, well, it's possible that everything's going to be okay. And like we come to a place where we're peaceful and everything's all right. So, folks in the room, folks on Zoom, does anyone have a little vision that you've experienced in a dream you're willing to share with us? Chris is ready. Hannah's got one. Anybody else? Let me know.
I think I shared a dream a week or two ago about an accident on the thruway that kind of woke me up to what am I changing. But there was another dream that I had that I'm not going to go into all the details here because it's really, really dark and disturbing. I was in college. I worked security in college as well. I was a religion major, so for the ministry. And I had this dream. It was really bizarre. I'm in this wandering around the African savannah, came up around a clearing. There was a group of people dancing like with a witch doctor and so forth. My friends were in the center, totally mesmerized, had no idea what was going on. I interpreted right away in my sleep, I guess. I woke up. I realized I had a group of friends that were in deep trouble. I knew exactly where they were. I knew what was going on. I don't know how I knew all this. I got up, I got dressed. One of the security guards starts, I'm reaching for the doorknob. One of the security guards who I worked with, I opened the door right on him. He goes, "How did you know I was here?" He goes, "We got it." I said, "Yeah, I know. We have to go to such and such a hall. So and so is involved." I knew it was a spiritual thing, and it was bad. It was really bad. It was very demonic. It was just not good. But the Lord woke me up to bring me over to that thing to address basically spiritual warfare. It was scary, and I'm almost afraid to even talk about it. I don't want to lift up any yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Well, thank you for sharing. Hannah, did you want to share a dream vision?
Yeah. So, um, there's a couple of different ones. I'm trying to think which one would be the easiest to be like short about, because I don't want to take forever. I would say probably the most recent one was, I was having a really hard, so like I was having a really hard time learning, like basically how you calculate an astrology chart like without using a computer. And I was just one night just like frustrated praying to just being like praying both to like gods and ancestors, because I have other like family members that like well, one family member that was a professional astrologer. So in my brain I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna just ask bunch of different beings because that just made sense. And anyway, and I not like expecting this to happen, but like I had a dream where like I was calculating a chart with my mom at the kitchen table at like our old house. A lot of my dreams happen there. They all happen at like the house I lived in for the first like 13 years of my life. For some reason my brain likes to dream there. But anyway, and so I wake up and I'm like, well, I guess it doesn't hurt to ask my mom if she has any like of my grandmother's books or anything like that. And so anyway, because like my mom was just not someone I thought of at first. I don't know why, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you just don't think of the obvious. And so then anyway, and I was able to ask her for that and get the information, and she had a book that actually put it in a way that made sense. So yay.
Cool. So your dream gave you that suggestion basically to ask your mom.
Yes.
That's so cool. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else have a premonition or a vision in your dreams? Ever? Yes. Well, I do think maybe visitations are maybe more common. Being sort of visited by someone else. Oftentimes, I think they're people who've passed away, right? When you have a dream like that. Does anyone want to, you got one? Yeah.
I was with my dad when he passed in the hospice center and went through, the different stages with him. And a couple times now within the last, well, he's been gone 5 years maybe, but the last few years I've had this vision of him there trying to tell me he wasn't in the hospice center. He was in his wheelchair sitting in his house, but I couldn't open the door. Like I couldn't get in the door, and he was asking me a question. And then I couldn't decide if that was the time when I was helping take care of him. And he would call out to us, I need help, and it was like a scary dream, but it was also kind of peaceful because I was going through the stage of dying, but I also had this other part of me that he said, Susie, I need you. And I couldn't open the door. And I was like, I can't do this. Dad, stop coming and seeing me in my dream. But it was okay. It was all right because it wasn't a struggle. It was almost, I can't tell you how I felt when I woke up. I just remember he's there. I can see him. I can almost reach out and grab him, but I can't open the door. So weird. Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely some processing happening. Thanks for sharing. You got one, Chris?
Yeah, Bradley, my son, all the medical issues, but a couple of times he's seen angels. I was actually walking with him across the bridge in Windsor, and he stopped and he looked down and goes, "See that, Dad? Right there, right there, right there. It's an angel." It was in the middle of the river. I'm like, I didn't see it. I had no idea. But he's told me this a few times. I remember once when I was in college again, I was in my car and I parked in front of the house and I looked and I saw an angel. It was terrifying. This guy was long hair and about 7 feet tall. And he had a big red sash and he had this sword that was about the size of, and it was big. It was really big. And just stood there. And I took comfort in it, but it was terrifying. It wasn't one of these little Raphael babies, It was like, I caught this glimpse of this thing. I'm like, whoa. And I was praying and I looked up and I saw this guy and I'm like, wow. And in the other visitation, I remember talking to my grandfather when I was in the garage working on my bike. I was just a kid. And my grandfather, who I never met, talking to him, like with my mind. He was talking to me. And he had died of pancreatic cancer, he was in the 40s, long before I was born. And it was kind of weird. And it's always stuck with me.
Thank you, Chris.
The Bible, they always say, don't be afraid.
Yeah, that's why the angels say, don't be afraid. Because they're scary. Yeah, Cheryl.
This isn't actually mine, but it's more Bradley's. But it was back when he was probably 5 or 6. And he was in the hospital and he was very, very, very sick. We didn't think at that point they weren't giving us much hope of him, even that we would even bring him home. And he woke up and his speech at the time, I mean, it's not that good now, but at the time it was even worse. And most of everything he said, I couldn't even understand. But anyhow, it was in the middle of the night and he popped up and he looked at me, and it was really the first time he had spoken almost the whole entire time he had been there. And he goes, Mommy, are you awake? And I clearly understood him. And I said, Bradley, what's wrong? And he said, Mommy, I saw Jesus. And I said, oh, how do you respond to that? And he said,
Jesus asked me if I wanted to go home with him. And I'm like, well, what did you say? I didn't know how to respond. And he said, I told him no, I wanted to go home with my mommy and daddy. And Jesus said, then go home with your mommy and daddy for a little while longer. And then he laid back down. But at that point, I knew he was going to get better. At that point, he was going to get better and he was going to come home. So, I mean, and that was one that, like I said, it wasn't mine, but it was Bradley's, and I've never forgotten it.
Thank you.
Mine falls in the visitation category, I think. So someone I knew, but the clergy at Wesley Village, where I was working, told me I had a call to ministry. I was like, are you crazy? And so I was like, not being one to just do something because somebody told me to. I wrestled with that. I was like, well, maybe not. No, good. No. And so one night, as I was falling asleep, I was praying about it. Like, what? Should I really? I don't know. But just praying about it. And sometime in the middle of the night, I don't even know what time it was. I was asleep, but I felt somebody sit on my bed. So, of course, you're a parent and you think, oh, Corey. And I wake up, and no one is there. And I thought, well, did I fall back asleep and not answer her? And she went back to bed. So I got up to check. She's snoring away. I went to the bathroom and went back to bed and thought, And it was like, okay, I think that was Jesus. Or maybe an angel. Somebody sat down and it just made me feel, yeah, it's okay. I'm with you. And so it was.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I've seen an angel too in awake. It's crazy. But yes, you're not alone in that. And I think the only visitation I've had was when I was 20 years old. My estranged father, who was not a good father, was shot and killed. And I found out about it here on staff. And then a few months later, I was back at college. I had a dream that I went to his house and he was there. And I was like getting a car seat out of the car or something. And my mom went in to get something and he just said, proud of you. And he was not sick anymore. He no longer had his struggles. I could feel his peace. And I remember waking up and feeling like, whoa, that was not just a dream. Those dreams that are like very realistic and you remember them to the detail. And that's how it felt. And I remember, I think like that same night, I called my mom and told her, and you said, I had a dream about your dad last night too. And it was like the same night, like a few months later, it wasn't like right away, but a few months after he died, we both have a dream, like in the same week at least, of him, and he was not sick anymore. He was released from his demons. and that, yeah, it was a little scary. I mean, I still felt a little afraid of him because he is a very scary concept in my mind still. But to see him at peace and not tormented anymore made me just feel like, okay, you know, God's helping that situation, and I can let that go and not feel like I have to keep punishing him or myself in my brain, you know, like that's, he's okay now. And it really did help me have some space around his illness and him. And while they were never separate in his life, I could see the separateness of it afterwards. And that was major part of my healing. So even if it was just a dream, I am grateful for that dream. And we really can, I think, you know, it's interesting that Hannah, you mentioned like, and Mom, you were talking about praying. I think we can nurture this aspect of our dream lives. One, by sleeping more, going to bed earlier, but praying about it. Yeah, just asking as you fall asleep, just asking, hey, you know, there's this thing that I'm really trying to figure out. Giving your mind even just some direction to, can you work on this while we sleep, please? And ask for that guidance. You know, I'm sure Joseph in this story was tossing and turning about what am I gonna do with Mary. So we can give ourselves some direction. We can ask God for some guidance. And I would love to hear from you, Carol, if that's a real hand raise on Zoom.
It's real, but can you hear me? Because I'm driving.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
So I think I have a very vivid and interesting dream life. It's usually about animals, but I did want to share, and I think I told you a little bit about it previously, but this year's been a journey for me, joining the church and like just personally and for a million reasons. But I think it was really significant. I've dreamt my whole life about floods, and I assume from what I've read that's just turmoil, constant turmoil. And I had a dream that I was with you, and Caden was in it as well. But we were together to go look at a flood area. And the significant part of the dream for me was that I was driving and you were in the back seat, but we were going together. And I haven't really figured it all out, but I think it was just kind of reinforcing that, like, I kind of joined this group and getting guidance, not necessarily with you in the front seat. You're in the back, Corey.
Yeah,
but
I love that. Yeah, you're still in control, but you're bringing us along for the ride.
Yeah, I think I just feel that was really symbolic to have you with me in that flood, and like, I don't know, it was just cool. It was a cool dream to me.
That is really cool.
It was validating to, because religion has always been really kind of something I couldn't really grab onto. This is the longest I've held on to something, and in spirituality or whatever you want to call it. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Yeah, I find it fascinating that you weren't in the flood. You were just looking at the aftermath, right?
It was the aftermath.
Yeah,
there was no flood.
Perspective.
it was a muddy mess, but the flood was over.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that is hopeful. And I think you speak to something really important. Like, I brought my dream dictionary to show folks because I got this a long time ago and it has rang really true. It feels like when I use it, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So whoever this Tony Crisp, his interpretations feel right to me. But even if you don't have one of these, like, everybody who shared a dream and why and that it was meaningful, like, you just knew what it meant, right? I don't even think we have to like super analyze it or get someone else to interpret it for us, because it's our mind, it's our soul that's dreaming this. So we know what that is meant to mean, and we can take that for as guidance. And it's okay that maybe the same dream might mean something else to somebody else.
I don't remember usually, but if there is time when you do remember something, like, I have to almost write it down. I've done that, or I've got up and talked it into my phone. Oh, that's smart. Because I don't want to forget it.
Right. Oh yeah, talking it into your phone is smart. Right. Yeah.
Peter's sermon, where he goes, Joel, your young men will see visions, your young men will dream dreams. Yeah. It's there.
It's there. And it is. Trisha Hersey, the Knapp bishop who leads the Knapp ministry, she talks about how rest is a portal to the dream space where we can download divine wisdom and have the space to imagine and create new ways of being. Things outside of the realm of possibility in our world, we can dream and say, oh, maybe that is possible though, in this other way. Like my bionic legs, I'm waiting for those to come out. I am fully prepared for that to happen. Yeah. We can experience a totally different life in our dreams. And once we've experienced it, then we can make it so even in the waking world. So I hope this is encouragement for us all to keep dreaming, to keep trusting our dreams, trusting our inner guidance, the inner spirit guiding us, and keep sharing them. Because I'll tell you, every time I don't lead with, I see angels or something like that. But like, once you get to know a group or a person and you're like, yeah, well, I've seen an angel. They're like, oh, me too. As soon as you say like, I've had this dream, I've been visited by a past loved one. As soon as you share, more people are jumping in to say, yeah, me too. We're all just too scared to really talk about it. But I think we should talk about it. We should normalize this, because as Mary Oliver says, only if there are angels in your head will you ever possibly see one. So we need to keep sharing, keep dreaming, keep resting, and just know that even in our dreams, God is with us. Yes, as Emmanuel this time of year, but also within each of us, speaking to us in our dreams, getting through to us in our subconscious, because our waking lives are so noisy, right? So may we all go meet God in our dreams this dark season, and tell me about it afterwards. I want to know.
And I invite everyone to just close your eyes or lower your gaze if you're comfortable doing that, or maybe you want to gaze into that lovely fire. And just notice the breath entering and leaving your body. And hold all those things we just put forward for prayer loosely. Just let them be an intention that good come to all the things that we made reference to. As the days get shorter, we follow nature's lead and turn inward. Despite outward appearances, winter is not a time of stagnation. It's a time of rest, incubation, a time for dreams to grow and ripen, often below the level of our consciousness. A time that our individual dreams can join with the dreams of others and with the dreams of the great dreamer, which some of us call spirit or God or simply love. Let us remember that love is with us. Bring your attention into your own body. Just do a quick body scan. Move any places gently that need to move. And invite any tight places to relax, even 5%. Starting at the top of your head, down through your face and jaw and neck and shoulders, arms, hands, fingers, torso inside and out. Let your pelvis relax and your hips. If you notice your tailbone is curled up tightly, let it release. Relax your legs and your feet and your toes. And bring your attention back up to the center of you. Let your mind float, carried by currents beneath the level of consciousness. And notice what dreams love has already placed in your heart and mind. Maybe dreams of welcome and generosity, cooperation, mutual respect, protection for yourself and for the vulnerable. Maybe dreams of fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, goodness, self-control. If you notice thoughts of negativity or cynicism or fear or impossibility entering your mind, just gently acknowledge them. No need to either grasp at them or fight them. Let them float like leaves down a slow river, drifting away, and bring your mind back into the realm of mystery and possibility. Let yourself dream. Let love dream through you. And let the energy of this dream fill every cell of your body. Let the energy of this dream join with the energy of the dreams of others gathered here, others gathered elsewhere. And let these dreams, love's dreams, ripple out into the world as a prayer, an intention, an energy, like a stone dropped into a pond, the ripples moving ever further outward. And as you stay in the stream, notice again your breath. Imagine that with every in-breath, you're inhaling the dreams of the great dreamer, the great spirit, God, love. And imagine on every out-breath that you're exhaling that dream into this world. If you feel moved to, you might even open your mouth on the exhale and gently let the breath blow it out to the world. Stream of goodness and light, health for everyone. Know that you can return to this stream and continue to send these intention, these prayers, this energy out to the world. But before we leave this in a moment, notice if you've received any wisdom or guidance or impulse toward any specific action to bring this dream forward into the world, to help it ripple outward. There's no need to force any answer, just notice if there is some sort of invitation. Take a moment to express inner gratitude for anything you might have received during this time, or just for the opportunity to take a moment to breathe and rest. And when you're ready, bring your attention back into your body, perhaps moving your hands or feet a little bit. Taking a deeper, fuller breath, and slowly, when you're ready, open your eyes and return to the circle. May you know that your dreams, the dreams of the great dreamer coming through you, are rippling outward this very day. May it be so.
Thanks for listening. If you want to support Church in the Wild and the work we do in striving for environmental and social justice, just head on over to our website, churchinthewild.org, and click the donate link at the top. There you can make a donation, set yourself up as a recurring supporter, or you can buy something from our Redbubble shop. We're so glad you're with us on this journey, following the Spirit through creation, adventure, and restoration. Until next time.